Here's your shot at winning $1,000. Text the national keyword CARD right now to 95819. That's CARD to 95819. We'll text you back to confirm your entry. Data and messaging rates may apply. Please don't text and drive. It's $5K a day on WMAL. Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
What a time to be alive. It's 7:07. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here to our little morning extravaganza as we unpack all the details of the indictment of James Comey, his anticipated surrender to authorities at 10 a.m. today. It's amazing how he was allowed that grace and privilege.
I know.
Rather than an early morning raid, perp walking him. And don't forget, a mysterious anonymous leak to CNN about the raid so that the cameras could be there to capture the moment.
That's right, yeah. Funny how that
we'll
happens.
talk about it. Also, in 30 minutes, we'll talk to the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, about that turning point event he did at Virginia Tech, and also about the latest in the race for governor to succeed Governor Youngkin. 8:05, Pastor Lucas Smiles of Turning Point Faith, and then at 8:35, a real treat. The 5-year-old actress who played Gretel in Sound of Music is all grown up. She is Kim Karath. She is in town for the Sound of Music production at Kennedy Center, and she'll join us, talk about how. Imagine that. Imagine being 5 years old and suddenly, basically, you're already a legend. You're already like you. That's just
True?
amazing. Just because you don't like Sound of Music, I don't need you, raining on my parade.
Hey, I'm going to hold my commentary till later.
Fine. Charlie Spiering, a political reporter for the Daily Mail, he's got his own little crew of Von Trapp children there in the house as he continues to grow. What are you up to? 12 kids now, Charlie? I mean, for a while it was a baseball team. Now you've got like the starting lineup of a football team.
Oh no, just 6, Larry. Let's not get carried away.
One more, and it's the Von Trapp family singers, Charlie. Charlie, of course, by the way, is the author of the book Amateur Hour, Kamala Harris in the White House, that sort of gave us a preview of what to expect from Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate. So you must be really interested in this book tour that she's engaged in now for her book, 107 Days, sort of explaining away the failure of her campaign. What stuck out to you here, first in the book and also in the way she's trying to promote it and herself?
Yeah, very interesting. She's embarking on this 15-city book tour that kind of almost feels like a burgeoning presidential campaign. But it's up to Democrats to decide whether they want her back in the swing of things. So we'll see how it goes. So far, she's already tangled with, Palestinian protesters in New York City. She's done a couple podcasts and Zoom calls when she's back with all the word salads and the platitudes and it starts with one statement and then she just keeps piling on more dependent clauses and reiterates her point. So it's still going on, but this is someone who really wants to rewrite history of why she lost the election.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of rewriting history, Charlie, can we play Cut 11? This was her being interviewed by Rachel Maddow earlier this week, and the question of, why she didn't pick Pete Buttigieg as a vice presidential running mate came up.
To be a black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but we had such a short period of time, and the stakes were so high.
Yeah, Charlie, did she clean that up well, or did she make things worse for her going forward?
Yeah, that looks really bad. If you're a Democrat, you say, wow, this is really like cold and calculating. You're lacking leadership in a moment that requires leadership. If you think he's the best one, then you would bring him on board. Republicans are like, this is just one more sign of evidence that she thinks the whole country is too racist, sexist, and homophobic to elect the right people president, and really just a bad look for her on both sides.
Charlie, you've sort of cataloged in your book about Kamala Harris, her relationship with her staff, her propensity for pointing fingers, accusing everybody else of failure instead of taking ownership and responsibility for her own work, and the fact that she went through so much staff during her time as vice president. Are you expecting some pushback, the inevitable response by all of those disgruntled people that she has left on the side of the road as so much roadkill? And by the way, what about Team Biden? Who, she's not very, she hammers Joe and Jill in this thing. Do you expect to hear some pretty good responses from them, thus devastating Kamala's future choices?
Well, that's funny you should ask, Larry. I'm in touch with them now, and they are not happy. We'll be working on some stories here. They really think that shot about how, she feels like the Democrats and the Biden team never lifted her up and were always pushing her down. They find that ridiculous. They say, they did everything they could in incidents where they could do anything, but they tick off a list of things that she did that were entirely self-inflicted.
Yes.
Starting a public war over the Vogue magazine choosing the wrong photo for the cover.
Right.
Her infamous YouTube video with child actors. These are the incidents where the Biden team was like, well, these self-inflicted wounds. There's just at some point you can't do anything. You just have to just stay out of the way and try to self-inflicted mistakes are very difficult to defend. So that's kind of the situation they see themselves at. But yeah, Team Biden is not happy about this book. They really think that it's self-serving, but also they are kind of puzzled. They're like, how does this book make you look good? How does this book make you feel like this is somebody that the American people would want to vote for? Sure, she's getting out there and telling her side of the story and maybe being a little more authentic, but they really don't think it's working out for her.
We're speaking with Charlie Spiering, political reporter for the Daily Mail. Looking forward to 2028. What lane is she trying to carve herself out with? I mean, she can't claim the most radical leftist lane. She's not embracing Mamdani particularly. I mean, she gave him like a soft, really cold endorsement. But she's also not ingratiating herself with the Obama, Biden folks at all by throwing them under the bus. So where do you think she's trying to go right now, Charlie?
I think right now Kamala Harris just wants to be wanted again. In fact, I think that's a big part of why she's pushing so much on this media tour. I think she wants to be seen as someone who's practical, and they also want Americans to look at her today and compare her with Trump, and tell her apologize to her and tell her that we're so sorry we made the wrong choice, because she thinks at this point Trump is so unpopular that she can go out there and win sympathy from voters who maybe voted for the president or President Trump and are maybe regretting their vote. I think she thinks that Trump's on the rocks right now, and she could really sail in and remind the country what they could have had.
So, Charlie, real fast, I mean, if this was a political play, it seems to be backfiring on her. She's not winning any friends anywhere, certainly not on her side if she wants to get that nomination again. And if it wasn't, it was just a play to, sell books and make money. Well, that doesn't seem to be working much either. I mean, sure, it's kind of a slow week, and I guess she's like, number 2 on Amazon or something. But it's not blockbuster. I mean, if anything, when she's doing her interviews and she's asked about some of the more, juicy details in her book, she's trying to backtrack and sort of rewrite history as if she didn't say what she said in her book. So what's she really doing? Or is she just that bad at this?
Yeah, Larry, I think it is. It is kind of a combination of the two. She's really feels like she's been stewing on this for a long time. The election day was a very difficult day, of course. And so she has literally come out and said, I will not let history have other people tell my story. I'm the one who experienced it firsthand, so I get to tell my story. And that's been throughout her whole career she's done this. She's always come out and tried to rewrite history believing that she's the only one in charge of writing her history. Well, that's not the way history works.
That's not how it works. No. You very rarely get to write your own history, and usually when people write their own history, it's fiction. We are eagerly awaiting Charlie Spiering's byline at Daily Mail with some new juicy pushback from Team Biden on Kamala. We were popping the popcorn, Charlie, so pay off, please. We're looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Larry.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939. Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
We've got a new poll out of Virginia, coefficient poll of likely voters, 1,000 likely voters over September 22nd and 23rd. So that's just a couple of days ago. That shows the lead that Abigail Spanberger enjoyed over Winsome Earl-Sears has tightened now down to just 6 points. Now, the Realtor average of polls shows Spanberger at a plus 7.3. There's one outlier there, and that is the Christopher Newport University poll, September 8th through September 14th. That's 800 likely voters, and that shows Spanberger with a plus 12. But that is definitely the outlier at this point. Yeah. This race has definitely tightened. Is it tight enough? Don't know. We'll see. I can tell you that Republicans are notoriously undercounted, poll after poll after poll. In fact, if I remember right, Glenn Youngkin never led in any of the polls 4 years ago. The last poll before Election Day showed the race as a dead heat. And, of course, Youngkin ended up winning, I believe, by 2 or 3 points. So we'll see what happens there. But I can tell you this. One warning sign for Spanberger is that in none of these polls, other than that one outlier, I think, but none of these polls show her over 50%. If she is such a lock, if she is so solid, if the state is such a strong, blue, dominant Democrat state, and if she is so likable and so popular, and Winsome Earl-Sears is running such an awful campaign, which, again, I'm repeating what the Washington Post and the mainstream legacy media tells you, if that was all the case, then she'd be well over 50% right now. And she isn't. True. She's still under 50%, and that is a big danger sign.
And it tells me two things. One, she's gotten all of the squeeze out of the blue side that she can, and secondly, her appeal to the moderates and independents, particularly, is not paying off the way she thinks it would have at this point. If you look at all of her ads, she's trying to position herself as moderate and trying to suggest that Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears is too far to the right. But people are not buying that argument, particularly when it comes to one issue, which could just be the main big division issue of this cycle, which is around protecting women and protecting girls from the monsters walking the streets of Virginia like Richard Cox. I think this is going to be one of those sleeper issues. She's trying to turn it towards inflation, but let's keep it, which she doesn't have a track record for anyway.
Right.
But that's what I've noticed about this polling. I think she's not winning independents like she thought she could.
I think you're right. And let's just be, every time she's asked about the policy of allowing men in girls' private spaces, she gives you a word salad, legalese, nonsense, non-answer. She's had 2 opportunities now, one with Nick Minock here in Northern Virginia on the first day of early voting, and then again several days later in Lynchburg. She doesn't give an answer. And it's a very fundamental issue because we just learned yesterday that Richard Cox, the registered sex offender, was seen by a little girl in a high school locker room on a children's swim day. He had the schedule for children's swim.
Sick.
He was in a shower stall pleasuring himself in front of this little girl. And all Abigail Spanberger was, I'm a mom of 3 daughters in Virginia schools, so this matters to me. If it matters to her and she tries to be relatable, why doesn't she just say, this is disgusting, this is despicable, and I oppose any policy that allows this to happen? She can't, because not only does she support those policies, she voted for those policies. One other issue here, if you think that Abigail Spanberger is in great shape and she's just, it's going to be a victory lap and she's not worried, it was just revealed that the teachers union, the National Teachers Union, just donated $500,000 to her campaign, which, by the way, is exactly what Randy Weingarten did for Terry McAuliffe in the final weeks of the campaign 4 weeks ago. That's desperation time when you have to call up the teachers union and say, we need another $500,000.
Yeah.
This race is going to be very tight, and it's going to go right down to the wire.
Good. And I really hope that people get so fired up. Like, I feel fired up right now to go out and support Winsome Sears, to go out and support everyone down the ticket who is standing up for women, listening to the victims, and trying to do something about it. Let's hold these politicians accountable for putting our little girls and women in harm's way.
Listen, we're Marylanders. Our election is next year. Our election's next year, and in many cases, it's such an uphill fight that it's too late for us. Virginia, it's not too late for you. You can do this. Governor Youngkin, who defied the odds and won a race that nobody said he could win 4 years ago, he will be joining us at 7:35. That's 10 minutes from now.
All right, coming up, we've got Virginia's Governor Glenn Youngkin, on to talk about this big race coming up and his amazing turning point speech this week. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
And when you hear that music, you know that it's time for Governor Glenn Youngkin. He joins us now. Governor Youngkin, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Larry. Great to be with you and Patrice. Happy Friday. And let me tell everybody, get out and vote. Listen, we have got to continue the big turnout that we've had going at the polls. This election is critical for the future of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Get out and vote. Winsome Sears for governor, John Reed for lieutenant governor, Jason Miyares for our great attorney general, and then vote Republican down the ticket.
Yeah, amen. I appreciate it. And we want to get into some details of that and get your reflections on how this race is shaping up compared to the race you ran and won 4 years ago. But first, a real quick look in the rearview mirror. This Wednesday at Virginia Tech, you took the stage with Megyn Kelly as the second Turning Point USA event since the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Packed house, amazing energy. Tell me what it was like for you, attempting, obviously no one can replace Charlie Kirk, but filling that space in front of that audience that night.
Well, it was just an incredible honor to be there and to see that room packed full. And when I say packed full, kids were hanging into the rafters. And to see the students turn out with such enthusiasm. At one point, they all stood up and they were cheering, USA, USA, USA. It was awesome. And I got to be honest, it was so inspiring, even in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination by a left liberal progressive who hated Charlie because Charlie spoke truth and did it in an incredibly respectful and civil way and assassinated him. And there was grief across this nation and my own family. And yet these young people, these students who are the future, came together and celebrated this. At one point, I reminded them all that the question that is asked over and over, well, who will be the next Charlie Kirk? And the best answer is they will be. All of them. Each of them needs to stand strong in their faith and their values and engage in society and not let the liberal left cancel them or run them over, but to stand up and believe in the future of America that is based on ideas that we know are true. And therefore, I got to be honest, it was one of the most inspiring moments of my entire time as governor.
Wow.
Well, Governor, I think we were all inspired listening to your speech. You definitely rose to the moment. And I just want to personally thank you for that nice birthday letter I got in the mail last week. So thank you. I would love, though, your reflections on the race in Virginia. Top of the ticket, we see your Lieutenant Governor. She's closing the gap pretty significantly between her and Spanberger. And as Larry was saying, compared to 4 years ago when you ran, parents were a big motivator in that race. Do you think parents, and particularly moms and women, are going to be another big motivator in this race right now in Virginia?
Here we go. Virginia always wakes up after Labor Day, and here we go. It's the same thing that happened in my race. We were down all summer, and then it tightened up in September, and we ran ahead in October and won. And here comes Winsome-Earle-Sears closing the gap, John Reed closing the gap, if not maybe being a little ahead, and Jason Miyares closing the gap, and he's tied right now. This is what's going on. And Virginians now are really attuned to the fact that the common sense conservative leadership that we've had have put Virginia in the best shape it's ever been, and people want it to continue. And on top of that, they're beginning to figure out that Abigail Spanberger is a left liberal progressive core to the core. And in fact, she can't even look at a camera and say men don't belong in girls' bathrooms and locker rooms. How hard is that? And yet we see this atrocious case in Fairfax County where this sex predator, true sex predator, is allowed in bathrooms with young girls, and Fairfax County doesn't do anything about it. Yeah. And by the way, it's their protocol. It's their rule that they have passed. Just about every single other district across the Commonwealth of Virginia has changed it. And here's these Northern Virginia districts that are holding tight to this idea that they're going to put men in girls' bathrooms. Parents, this is your daughter. This is your daughter. And therefore, Fairfax County and the other liberal counties in Northern Virginia are letting men in the locker rooms. I mean, literally predators. We've got to stand strong here. Abigail Spanberger can't even look at a camera and say that's wrong. Yeah. This is what you're going to get. And so that's why Winsome is closing it so tight. This is why we've got to get out and vote. Elect Winsome-Sears, your next governor. She will do a spectacular job driving economic development, more tax rebates, keeping everybody safe, and standing strong for education. This is what Winsome will do. We've demonstrated it works. That's why we've got to hire Winsome-Sears as your next governor.
Governor Youngkin, you ran such a positive, upbeat, hopeful, optimistic campaign, and I think Lieutenant Governor Sears is following in your footsteps. She's doing the same, yet at the same time pointing out what you pointed out, that Abigail Spanberger has some serious flaws here in standing up for some basic morality. I don't know if you've seen the latest stump speech from Abigail Spanberger, 2 different campaign appearances after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. She is compelling her crowds at these events to, and I'm quoting her now, let your rage fuel you. What does that tell you about what kind of governor she might be if that's her closing message to her supporters?
Listen, I think the liberals are completely unhinged. And to extort rage and violence out of their base, we're seeing it translate into the most horrific sign at Winsome's statement when she was with the Arlington County School Board, "You can't drink out of my water fountain," to assassination of Charlie Kirk, to the death threat on Kim Taylor yesterday, who was our sitting delegate in Petersburg and the surrounding counties. I mean, this is what they are encouraging, is violence and rage. This is why we've got to stand strong, because we believe in a better day tomorrow. We believe that Virginia is not only winning, but the best state in America to live, work, and raise a family. And that is what the future is about, not rage and hate and violence.
That's right.
It's that simple. It's that simple. And so I say to all voters, do you want rage, violence, and anger? Or do you actually want a leader in Winsome-Earle-Sears, a leader in John Reed, a leader in Jason Miyares, who stands strong for the values that we know are so important? Opportunity, opening up education pathways, keeping people safe, and the bad guys in prison, not out of prison, like Jay Jones, who's running against Jason Miyares wants to. He just wants to let them all out. I mean, these are basic principles of right versus wrong, and we know the right path, and we've got to make sure Virginia stays on it.
I've had the pleasure and honor of interviewing Glenn Youngkin as governor and as candidate for governor, and I can tell the tone in his voice, the energy in his voice when he is hitting that home stretch, campaigning for other candidates and for himself when he's got that fire in the belly. That's what you're hearing from Glenn Youngkin right now. This is a sprint now to the finish line, and I know that Governor Youngkin's going to do whatever he can to win this one. One more race in Virginia, Governor. Maybe another one in the future, but we'll talk about that another time. Governor Youngkin, always great to talk to you, sir.
Thank you, Governor Youngkin.
Yeah. God bless you all. Have a great Friday.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
A bit of a Harry Potter update here. J.K. Rowling, an outspoken opponent of transgender activists and other policies and laws that would marginalize what it means to be a woman. She, of course, incredibly outspoken and courageous about this issue, and she has now chimed in on this issue that is facing us here in Northern Virginia. You just heard Governor Youngkin refer to the case of Richard Cox, a registered sex offender, who we've now learned during testimony yesterday in Arlington County had exposed himself deliberately, it appears, to a young child because he had the children's swim times and swim lessons on his phone. The schedule was there, and he, it appears, purposely went to this locker room in an Arlington high school during children's swim hour, and he was seen by a child pleasuring himself in a shower stall. J.K. Rowling has now reposted Nick Minnock's account of this on the X platform, and she says, "Remember, there's no evidence whatsoever that a sexual predator would claim to be a woman so he could enter female changing rooms and public bathrooms. It literally never happens." Of course, with great irony and sarcasm, pointing out that that's, it appears, specifically what happens. This person is in no way whatsoever a woman, not even in appearance. RuPaul looks more feminine than this guy.
Yeah.
Without
the wigs and the dresses.
Yeah. I'll go one step. I'll go one step further. The dude who was the Health and Human Services Deputy Secretary under Joe Biden.
Yes.
Rachel
I can
Levine.
see his face.
Richard Levine. He looks more feminine than this guy who has now done this thing. So J.K. Rowling jumping in there and getting a lot of exposure here now internationally for this story in our backyard.
Well,
Meanwhile,
I'm glad. I mean, it needs to be made. It needs to become a national issue and elevated to every race that's possible, because we need to make sure that the left is called to the mat for accepting and promoting and celebrating this.
That's right. It's very simple. We know this playbook because it's used against Republicans all the time.
Bingo.
Every single Democrat running for office, including Abigail Spanberger, who just can't come up with an answer on this. It certainly matters to her. She wants to be the governor of the state where this happens. Every single Democrat needs to say, do you support policies that allow this sexual predator to prey on little girls? That's it. That's simple, because as of now, those policies allow this to happen. All right. Now, meanwhile, in Harry Potter world, as J.K. Rowling speaks out defiantly about these issues, using her right to free speech, Emma Watson, the actress who played Hermione in the Harry Potter series, she is woke as woke can be. She was asked about J.K. Rowling. Now, understand, no one would know this girl's name. She would have no career. Yeah. She would have no money. She would have nothing if it weren't for J.K. Rowling. So she was asked in a podcast about this issue, and here she is struggling to try to say something. Cut 14.
I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Joe and the person that I had personal experiences with. I will never believe that one negates the other, and that my experience of that person I don't get to keep and cherish. To come back to our earlier thing, I just don't think these things are either or. I think it's my deepest wish that I hope people who don't agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I don't necessarily share the same opinion.
She's tried to just drive right down the center of that road, and it's not going to work. She's woke. She's on the wrong side of this issue, but she knows that she's on the wrong side of history here. Hermione should have used the silencing charm there before she answered that question. She should have just waved her wand and said, "Silencio." It's 7:53.